Hi there! I'm Sarah A. Chrisman, the author of The Tales of Chetzemoka, and today I'm going to tell you about a few of the wild foods of the Pacific Northwest that show up in my books.
The Tales of Chetzemoka take place in a time that's really fun to write about. By the 1880s and 90s, when the books are happening, the Pacific Northwest was a really dynamic mashup of Old West meets High Victorian, with nautical influences from the extensive sea trade and evergreen forests that stretched on for miles. If you're not from the Pacific Northwest, some of the local wild foods that grow around here might be new to you. Today I'm going to show you just a few of my favorites that pop up in the Tales of Chetzemoka.
Camas lilies were an important food source for the native peoples of the Pacific Northwest. There are greater Camas lilies, like these, that are pretty big, and then there's also a lesser version that's about the same size as these bluebells here. You can tell a Camas lily from a bluebell because the Camas lilies have a really pretty star-shaped flower to them, whereas bluebells are a bell. These have a tuber that was the starch for the Aboriginal peoples of the Northwest. It was basically like a potato.
The Aboriginal peoples of the Northwest cultivated Camas lilies as an important source of carbohydrates. And when Lewis and Clark came west and saw Camas fields for the first time, they thought they looked like lakes of fine, clear water. When Camas was harvested, the people cultivating it had to be very careful because a Camas look-alike called death Camas grows in similar conditions. As the name implies, death Camas is highly toxic, so you should never try to harvest Camas bulbs yourself without a 100% positive identification. In Book 5 of the Tales of Chetzemoka, we hear about how Ken and Felix learned this to their peril. Addie's trying to dissuade them from camping because they got so sick the last time they went. Ken asks Felix if they should blame the strange mincemeat they got from an old trapper, or the Camas root they dug up themselves. Felix kind of scratches the back of his head and says, "I'm still not entirely convinced that was Camas root. When I've gotten Camas root from Indians, it always tasted sweet. But whatever that was had a strange, burning taste. I told you I didn't think eating it was a good idea." Leave it to the chums to get each other in trouble, right? Now on to a slightly less perilous native food.
These are salmon berries. These are one of the earliest berries that ripens here in the Pacific Northwest.
Salmon berries are sort of shirt-tail cousins to raspberries. They start out as bright pink flowers in the spring, which turn into sweet berries in the early summer. There's a really marked degree of variation between different bushes regarding the taste, size, and even the color of salmon berries. So if the first salmon berries you try aren't flavorful enough for you, keep an open mind and try them again when you find bushes elsewhere. Watch out for thorns, though. In the Tales of Chetzemoka, Felix likes to tease Ken by stealing his cap and tossing it into salmonberry thickets, because he knows how hard it'll be to retrieve it. In First Wheel in Town, Doc manages to run afoul of some stinging nettles right after he's just split his breeches. Now that's a scenario that's no fun for anyone. Well, except the readers, of course. When you go hunting stinging nettles, be sure to bring some sturdy gloves with you. When you get home, pack the fresh nettles tightly into a large mug, cover it, and in 10 minutes you'll have a savory tea that's high in iron, potassium, and calcium. And if you find yourself with anything like Doc's problem and get stung by nettles, remember that the nettles themselves contain their own best remedy. Pull up the roots of the nettle, break them, and rub the sap on your nettle rash. I've found that this works better for me than any other remedy, but I do hope you won't need to try it.
Here we have my very favorite berry in the whole world. These are amazing. These are called thimbleberries. And if you imagine the tartest raspberry you've ever tasted combined with the sweetest strawberry you've ever tasted, that's what these taste like. And they only grow in this part of the world. They are very special, and as you can see, they sort of squish as soon as you pick them, so they can't really be shipped. So they are unique to the Northwest, and I love them. They get their name from the shape. If I can get one off intact without squishing it, which is easier said than done. They are shaped... I squished another one. They are shaped like a thimble. There we go. And that's why they're called thimbleberries. And over here we have some of the native blackberries of the Pacific Northwest. Now, we've got two kinds of blackberries now in the 21st century in the Pacific Northwest.
This small trailing blackberry is the one our Chetzemoka friends would have been picking in the woods around their town in the 1880s and 90s. In 1885, Luther Burbank, the same scientist who brought us the russet Burbank potato, developed a brand new blackberry called the Himalayan Blackberry. In the time since then, Burbank's invention has engulfed a great deal of the landscape, like something out of H.G. Wells' The Food of the Gods. Our native blackberry is a bit less thuggish and considerably more delicate. It ripens earlier than the Himalayan blackberries that'll be coming on in September, and the native blackberries are smaller and sweeter. I grew up in the Northwest, so I know how much this area has to offer. I always hope that my tales of Chetzemoka bring this region to life for all my readers. Even if you can't travel here yourself, I hope my books make you feel like you're experiencing this place with all your senses.
Thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a nice thumbs up, and remember to tell your friends about my books. Happy reading!